All right, what is up, friends and family? Welcome back to another episode of Tea with Carley. I am your host, the one, the only teacher Carley. That may or may not be true. I'm pretty sure there are other teachers out there in the world also named Carley, but you know what? I feel like I'm the one and only. I'm the one and only. But today I have something interesting I want to talk to you guys about because it's something that I have been going through and I've been struggling with the past couple of years. Well, that's a lie. I've been struggling with this topic for a long time. If you've read the title, Is Your No Hurting Your Career? Basically, is saying no hurting your career, hurting you moving forward, hurting your promotion? Just by saying no to things, do you think it is hurting your career or not? Or could it possibly hinder your career or not? So I'm going to tell you guys a story. I know I usually don't start off with a story, but this has been heavy on my heart because it's something that even I have been dealing with personally at my job the past couple of years. And I just want to give my 2 cents. I want to share with you guys my perspective. So over the past couple years at my work, and honestly, in every job that I have ever had, I find myself always going above and beyond. And that's not a bad thing. Trust me, that is a good thing. I know that I am fortunate enough to have an employer and I want to, do my best. So I don't mind going above and beyond most of the time because it's the kind of person I am. I don't like settling for less. I like to do the most. So I have been going above and beyond in almost every job I've ever had in my entire life. And at my job that I currently have, I'm an editor. I don't mind going above and beyond because it's what is kind of expected of me. I feel like in order to stand out, in order for somebody to notice you, in order to get promoted, you kind of need to go above and beyond sometimes. However, there is a fine line between going above and beyond and being taken advantage of. And I know I work for an American company and I am an American citizen. I am an American. I was born and raised here in America and I work for an American company currently. But I have seen so many people who are taken advantage of because they are, immigrants or because they are non-native speakers or, their visa is riding on them to do their job well and they don't want to risk being fired because then they can lose their visa status and so on and so forth. I have been there. I've been there when I was living in Korea. You want to stand out. You want to always say yes, never say no. You want to do your best because, in Korea, my whole livelihood depended on me doing my job well because my job also sponsored my visa. My visa allowed me to stay in the country. Korea was now my home, where I lived and, everything. So I understand the importance sometimes behind just doing your work, saying yes, and not arguing. However, I have learned that sometimes you can be taken advantage of. And here's my story. I know I had to give a little backstory first, but I have been, for the past couple years, doing my job, but also doing another person's job. Now, what that other person is doing, who knows? I don't know why this other person always needs my help to do their job. But this other person is technically not my superior, but has been at the company a really long time and is someone who, in my group, in my team, we look up to like a superior of sorts. They have no say into whether I am fired or whether I am hired or any of that. They have no say. But they are still seen as kind of like a lead or a superior of sorts. And this person, for about a year, maybe a little bit more than a year, every month around the same time of the month, he had things that needed to get done, things that needed to be submitted, and he wasn't going to have enough time. And he recruited me. And there for the first couple months, it was just me being thankful that, it got done. And yeah, I had to do it, But I was like, oh, no worries. I'm okay with lending a helping hand. However, it became so repetitive, and I'm trying to choose my words carefully because I know people who watch this or listen to this already know who I'm talking about, like my friends and family, especially my coworkers. But it became a habit where I was every month around the same time of the month expected to do this job. It wasn't my job. I wasn't getting paid for it. It actually has nothing to do with my job. It's, in fact, completely out of my realm. So not only was it something I had to learn how to do, and he taught me how to do it the first couple times, but it gave me a lot of anxiety and stress because it was completely different from what I usually do. It's not in my realm. I am an editor. I'm really good with English. That was, my little area of expertise. However, this job, there was a lot of math involved. I do not like math. There was a lot of techie stuff you have to do. I'm not big on tech. I'm not super duper tech savvy. So it gave me stress. But I didn't want to say no because I was afraid, to be honest. I was afraid to say no. I was afraid that I would get in trouble. I was afraid that it would hurt my career, my possible chances of getting a promotion, and so on and so forth. I was just afraid. But eventually it got to a point where I was so busy. I was doing not only my job, not only his job, but then somebody else's job because that person moved to a different department. So I was struggling to get all of my work done because I have 3 jobs now that I'm doing, and I wasn't getting paid extra for it. I had no incentives for doing these 3 jobs. It's just, oh, Carly, she's willing to do it, so let's just let her do it. So it got to a point where I had to talk to one of my other bosses, and I was like, listen, I cannot get my own work done because I'm constantly doing other people's work. And my boss, she's really cool, very chill. She was like, no, this is unacceptable. She talked to the other people, and I was able to just tell them no. She kind of told them not to do it anymore. They still tried to give me their work, but I was like, no, sorry, I can't do it anymore. I have to focus on my own work, in a polite way. But all in all, it came down to I was scared to say no. And I think if it's scary for me to say no here in America, as an American, working for an American company, working with American coworkers, then of course it's going to be scary for someone else, especially if you are an immigrant or an expat working here in America. It's going to be even more difficult because you don't really know the culture. You don't know if it's okay for you to say no or this or that. So that was just my story. And honestly, when I was living in Korea, I knew Korean culture pretty well. And you don't say no. That's just Korean culture. You don't say no. You always say yes to your boss. So in America, that's not the case. Now, don't go out there and start, being a pain in the butt and saying no, that you're not going to do your job. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying don't be taken advantage of. It's okay to say no at times where you think you are being taken advantage of. So I'm going to teach you today how to say no, but in a good way, especially in your career, at your job or wherever, how to say no, but make it nice. So picture this. You are given a group project at work, and let's say it's you and a few other people. Somebody has an idea, they say it, and then you or somebody else in the group says, your idea is boring. We need something more creative. We need something with a little more pizzazz. That is kind of singling somebody else out, right? People can get really offensive and kind of defensive whenever you single them out. If you want to say no to somebody's idea at work, this is an example. I have another story. I'm an editor, and sometimes we find crazy errors, and we're just like, how is this an error? This is so simple. How did it get this far? Because it's I work in an assembly line where so many different people look at the books that I edit, and how did it get so far to me without anybody realizing this error? When there's a crazy error like that, I like to print it out, and I wanted to put it on the wall. I wanted to make a wall of shame just for fun. But my boss was like, Carly, very good idea. Love where you're coming from. but why don't we make it a book of shame? Instead of saying your idea is horrible, don't put it on the wall, she came up with a better idea, a different idea. She confirmed that my idea was good, and then she gave her idea. This is what you can do. So if somebody has like an idea that you're not really a fan of and you don't want to say no, you can say, all right, I see where you're coming from. Or like, okay, your idea is pretty good. I like the creativity. I like your idea. However, I was thinking more along the lines of blah, 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 Or maybe you and the other person, you give your idea and then you guys combine certain elements and, come up with something even better, combine both ideas and come up with something better. That is how you can say no, but also say yes at the same time. That is a group project situation or anytime you are, somebody's coming up with an idea and you're not really certain about it or whatever, you can use this as a solution. This keeps the conversation objective. You avoid personal attacks by saying like, your idea is dumb. Nobody likes you. Nobody likes your idea. You don't want to single anyone out because, like I said, they can become very defensive. And trust me, having beef, if you don't know what beef means, it just means having confrontation or, strife with a coworker is the worst kind of beef that you can possibly have because you have to be with them like every day, more than your own family sometimes, because you're working every day to make money and you can't just quit. Maybe you could, but you probably shouldn't because you need money. So it's just bad to have confrontation or have beef with your coworkers. So this is one way that you can avoid it. All right. Another way is you can soften the blow. Soften the blow. So softening the blow just means that you kind of provide a buffer, but you still disagree. Yeah. So you still disagree with something or you still want to say no. You're not fully on board, but you don't want to be so mean or so rude because, again, this is your place of employment. All right. You guys have to come here every day. You got to work and you don't want to make things awkward. So you can soften the blow. So you can say things like, I see your point, but, and then explain. Or, from my perspective, it seems as though blah, 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 blah. Softening the blow, just adding words here and there. And I'll give another personal example. So I've been tasked recently at work with training new people. And I'm not going to lie, it hasn't been all butterflies and rainbows. It's been pretty hard. And there's times that, that I'm not proud of, that I snapped at people, and times that they're not proud of, they snapped at me and the other person who was training them, because it is difficult to transfer all your knowledge. And then also during the month that they were onboarding with the company and they were being trained, we had so much going on. We had so many things we had to get done, and we were down 2 people because 2 people left the company. We hired 2 new people, but they had to be trained. So we were extremely busy. And then on top of that, we're training new people. So there was a lot of ideas that the new employees had, and I love new ideas. I also was the same way when I started working at my company 6 or 7 years ago now. I was the same way, like, oh, I have all these new ideas how we can fix things. However, it's not something that we can just fix overnight. So a lot of times people are like, oh, the new people would be like, oh, if we do this, then it'll be a lot easier, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yes, you are right. However, if we change this, then literally it affects 50 other people. So we can't change this because it affects everyone. And it might be easier for us, but it might not be easier for everyone else, So sometimes it's, instead of just saying, no, we can't do that, that's a stupid idea, or that will ruin everything, you just say like, oh, you know what? I see where you're coming from, but we have to think of other people. If we change one thing with our group, it's probably going to affect the next group or the group before us, and it's going to throw things off. So we have to take everyone into consideration. Again, my job is very much like an assembly line of sorts, not like an actual factory assembly line, but like I edit books or manuals, and it goes from one to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. So little changes here and there could actually, that seem easier for us could be detrimental to other groups and other teams. So instead of me just telling my new coworker, hey, no, your idea is horrible because it's going to ruin everything, I said, oh, you know what? I see your point. Very good idea. But unfortunately, we can't really do anything about it because it will affect other people. And even though it will be easier for us, it won't be easier for them. So, you kind of soften the blow. You tell them no, and they had more ideas, here, there. And I'm like, you have a lot of good ideas, but a lot of these we just can't do, or we can't try at the moment, at least, because it's going to take months to try to come up with a plan, and we don't have the time right now. So that's another way that you can say no, but make it a yes. You can say no and soften the blow, not make it so harsh, all right? And the third way that you can say no, but make it more polite, is you can turn your disagreements that you have with your bosses or your coworkers or whoever into opportunities. And this one is chef's kiss, pure gold, all right? This is very good advice. Look at me and being an advisor now. But no, turning your disagreements into opportunities is one way that I've definitely been able to, first, I've been able to create more work for myself. So be careful. I was just talking to my friend earlier today, and I was like, you know what? Being good at your job is amazing, but also not so much, because once people start realizing that you're really good at your job, your workload increases and you start getting more work and people start relying on you more, which could be a good thing, but also it's a bad thing, So that's the boat that I'm in right now with my company. They realize, oh, Carley knows what she's talking about. All right, let's give her more work. Not for everything, but for a lot of things now. I'm like, dang it. Probably shouldn't have been so amazing. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not amazing, but there are a few things here and there that I do very well. So people come to me for that, and I don't mind. I always try to help out when I can. Like I said, I'm just making sure this year I made a New Year's resolution. I'm making sure that I'm not being taken advantage of, and I'm learning to say no sometimes, which is actually very hard for me. I hate disappointing people, and I hate turning down money. So if there's overtime or if there's anything that could possibly help others, but also, help my own family out financially wise, I don't like to say no. So those are my two things that I'm working on. But back to this solution number 3, you can turn your disagreements into opportunities. And here's how this all can happen. You can turn your disagreements into opportunities, and here's how you can do it. You can offer alternatives or solutions, and you can just spit them out, man. You can be like, okay, here's this instead of this. I like where you're going, just like we said, softening the blow. I like where you're going with this, but why don't we do this instead? Instead of saying, I like where you're going, I like what you've said, I see your point, but no. Instead of saying that, you can say, good point, I see where you're going, I see where you're coming from, but how about blah, blah, blah. And then you kind of give an alternative solution. And sometimes it shows that you're more invested into whatever they have to say, or you're more committed to your team, you're more committed to your job. And a lot of times it's a better outcome, more positive outcome for sure. Because if you were to just shoot someone down, which means just to say no, sometimes people will be like, oh, well, that was a little harsh, and what are you bringing to the table? I have all these ideas. You shoot them down. Why don't you come up with an idea? And it could cause a little tension. So one thing that I really like to do, and I do it often, I offer alternative solutions. And an example of this is, I always talk about, I have 2 jobs. Well, I don't know. I kind of talk about my jobs equally, but in this podcast so far, I've been talking about my day-to-day job. But now I'm going to switch gears and talk about my second job, which is I'm a teacher, and I teach English online. And I have a lot of ideas. Because I truly love teaching, and I truly love seeing people grow and helping people on their journey when it comes to English, because that's probably the only thing I'm good at, teaching. I do enjoy history, but everything else, math, science, nope, 1000% not up, not my cup of tea, not my forte. But I have a million ideas that I want to see come to fruition when it comes to the academy and my students. I want to help them as much as I can. But I know that I can't do them all at once. So every now and then, I talk to Tiffany. She's the owner of the academy. She's also a really good friend of mine. And I guess, yeah, of sorts, she is my boss. And I spitball these ideas at her. Like, oh, I have this idea. I have this idea. I have this idea. And one thing I love about Tiffany is that she does this too. And I think I've actually learned it from her because I've been working with her for quite some time now. And even before that, we were friends for a long time. I've kind of learned from her as well that when somebody comes with an idea or when somebody comes to me with what they think is a solution to a problem, I don't shut them down. Now, if it's my husband, I know he's going to be editing this. That's a different story, all right? Because we are family and I can say no to you. But I'm talking about in the workplace. In the workplace, I don't really shut them down. I try to give alternatives. And back to the academy that I work for and Tiffany, who is the owner of the academy, I give her ideas every now and then. Some of them are good. Some of them not so good. It's just things that pop up in my mind. And I'm like, this would be great. And sometimes I think about them for a long time. I write them down. I think them over. And then I reach out to her and give her my ideas. Other times it pops in my head and I'm like, this is an amazing idea. I don't need to think about it. I send it to her right away. No matter if I sent it to her right away or if I pondered about that idea for 3 months, she is going to seriously consider it. And if she doesn't necessarily, agree with everything, she's going to offer an alternative solution because that's just kind of the person that she is. She's never one to say, no, stupid idea, or no, try again. She always pushes me in the right direction. And I love that because that's what I do also with my coworkers. And I've learned a lot from her, not only with my coworkers, but also my leads and my managers and my bosses. Sometimes if I don't agree with them and we have a disagreement, I share my point of view and I offer an alternative solution. And that shows them, hey, I'm invested in this company. I want a positive outcome. It also demonstrates critical thinking because it shows them like, hey, I've thought about what you had to say and here's what I've come up with. Maybe shows a little bit of problem solving skills. And then it just proves to them and everyone else that's watching that you're a valuable team member because you know how to play the game. You don't just sit back and complain. You don't sit back and say, no, your idea is stupid. No, your idea sucks. We should try to just keep it the way things are because things are ever changing. You come up with ideas and solutions and you establish your own value. So the example that I gave about Tiffany, I've came up with a few ideas that for classes that I'm actively doing right now in the academy. And then I had more ideas that we were like, let's hold off on them. Or, I had an idea for a class. Instead of making it a class, we turned it into a curriculum. So I'm in the process of developing that curriculum. And then another idea I had for our class, again, instead of making it a class, she was like, why don't you turn it into a book? So I'm in the process of making it into a book. So I've lived through this. I'm trying to express the best way I could. The topic was, is your no hurting your career? And to answer that question, I don't believe so. Because there are so many ways that you can say no and still come out on top. Say no, but making it a yes. Softening the blow. Turning the disagreements into opportunities. And I gave you multiple examples of literally my real life examples. I was being taken advantage of. I felt like I was being taken advantage of. I had to tell someone. And unfortunately, it wasn't awkward, but I just had to be honest. And I'm like, hey, I am working so much on so many things right now that I need to step back and start working only on my stuff and prioritizing my work. And I even said, I softened the blow. I was like, if there's ever a time that I'm not extremely busy, I will reach out and offer my help if you still need it. However, that was like 3-4 months ago, and we have been extremely busy, and we still are extremely busy. We've been, super busy this whole time, so that has yet to come. But I kind of softened the blow a little bit, and again, this keeps you professional. Like if you want to say no, instead of just saying no, offering better ideas, saying like, oh yeah, your idea is good, but we could do this. It makes you seem more professional. And look, you are contributing to the company because you're coming up with different ideas and people are like, oh, you know what? She or he is actively listening. They are trying to participate. They're trying to give better or more ideas. They're a valuable employee. All right. All in all, I want to leave you with a few points here. I don't know if I mentioned it throughout the podcast, but it is extremely important for you to have clear and professional communication. Trust me, I have learned from my mistakes. The minute that it becomes unprofessional, it gets awkward and then you have to deal with it. And there's been times I'm not happy about it, but it has happened. Times that I have been less professional than I should be, and coworkers have also been less professional than they should be. And we had a disagreement and it just makes things awkward. So please, if you're going to say no, be clear and be professional. Also, mastering polite disagreements takes practice. I am 32 years old. I've been speaking English my entire life, and I still struggle with disagreeing politely. All right. Not so much so in the workplace. I think I've almost mastered that now. But when I have to disagree outside of the workplace or with people who aren't paying me, sometimes being polite is hard. Sometimes I'm just like, no, especially when it comes to my YouTube channel. I have a lot of people giving me ideas, a lot of people guiding me. Some people, I hold them on a pedestal. All right. They are like, like I was saying, Tiffany, she's also my mentor. So I heed her advice, like everything that she gives me. If it comes out of Tiffany's mouth, I'm like, yes, this is amazing. My husband, on the other hand, he could say the same thing. And I'm like, ew, no, It's just, I know it sounds so crazy, so I'm so biased, but it's just hard for me to accept that somebody else could be right when my YouTube channel, I see it as like my child as well. I am a mother. I have 2 human children, but my YouTube channel is like my third little baby, so disagreeing politely takes practice. So don't feel bad if you can't do it right off the bat. Also, I want you to keep practicing not saying no, because people might get tired of you real quick. But I want to just encourage you guys to keep practicing your English. I know I've made these podcasts so they're more, they're more interesting for everyone, not only English language learners, but I do know that most of you are here because you want to learn English and because you want to learn how to speak like a native. And maybe you're here just because you love me, and I love you too. But I want to encourage you all that you're doing amazing. I see your comments. I see all the love that you have for me, and I have so much more love for you guys. So I want to encourage you to just keep practicing, keep listening to podcasts, not just mine, not just my podcast, but podcast or even watching TV. To me, it doesn't sound or it doesn't feel like you're learning. My YouTube videos, other people's YouTube videos, it doesn't feel like learning necessarily, but you are. You are actively listening to English and you are learning from doing so. All right. Thank you guys for joining me on today's podcast. I hope I helped you a little bit. It's something that's just been on my mind for a while. And I know I've had people come to me and ask, hey, how can I be more professional at work? And hopefully this helped you learn how to say no, but in a nice way. So if you like this episode, please like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you leave me some ideas in the comments, some things you would like me to talk about in the future episodes. I'm here for you. I know I've been getting a lot of messages about the workplace, so I've kind of been doing that here lately, both in my YouTube videos and now on today's podcast. But anything and everything, this podcast is a free for all. So please leave a comment of what you would like for me to talk about next episode, and I will see you all in the next episode.
Fireworks.